Hey y'all, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. Hello. How are we, friends? Do I have... Good. Connected. Okay. Okay. Ta-da! How are y'all? Good. Oh, I should ask my friends to log on. You know, could use some sleep. There we go. No, that's not right. There it is. Okay. How are you? Tell your friends, come on in. Remember the olden days when we would go, I'll wait till some people logged on. That's just so rude to the people that already logged on. So, I think I have my blush lipstick ratio correct. If not, tell me in the chat. Because there's that. And then, Stephanie, partner, I need your help from when we went to Austin and made those slides. And I need to make an adjustment because in the morning of the thing of the deal. Okay, all right, perfect, 9. So are they still general? Will you check and see if they're general, the one that you sent me from when we were in Austin? Because I need to use them for, yes, Stephanie, you. Oh, we can't hear anything? Can you hear me now?
We can hear. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But remember you made those for me on the fly? Anyway, all right, so look, 99 people have beer on the wall. Okay, we're ready. Oh, Dan just got the #1 gifter. Thank goodness for me, it would be the #1 grifter. Somebody called me a grifter. I had to look it up. I was like, I don't even know what that means. I would like to say for the record, I was in Vegas this weekend doing some training, and I collect salt and pepper shakers. And so there were salt and pepper shakers from room service, and my husband's like, don't take them. So we ordered, he said just like that. I just imagine he said, don't take them. So we ordered room service for the next night, and Stephanie was there with me, and I was like, would you care if I took those? And the guy goes, I don't care. So I didn't take them, just received them. So, can never have enough salt and pepper shakers. All right, kids, we're ready.
Yes, okay. First, IEP is tomorrow. What is the advice you can give me? My son is 3.
So make sure you have a copy of the evaluation. Make sure that you share all of your concerns and that all of your questions get answered. And if you don't get them all answered tomorrow, then you table it and finish on a day where all of you have time to review the documents. You don't have to make a rush decision. This is your child. And make sure, if it's an initial evaluation, that you look at related services and instructional services under IDEA. They're often missed. But good luck tomorrow. It's going to be fantastico.
This is our senior year. Our final IEP meeting is coming up. Anything I should do or not do or should know?
Well, I don't know. Was it a good run? Do you want to put marbles in their gas tank? Do you want to take them a basket of sweets? So you want to make sure that it serves them for this last year, this last, spring semester, and that whatever information that you need for transition, post-secondary success, gainful employment, independent living, and further education, VR services, and that you're connected to agencies. And then if your child is going to start education in college, that you have information about getting to the disability office.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, therapy area, in quotes, does that mean it can also be just in the general education classroom? I didn't think so.
Therapy area?
Therapy area.
So it depends on what the therapy is. If it's occupational Occupational therapy, you could do that in the classroom during writing. If it's occupational therapy, you can do that in the classroom when it's sensory. If you do speech in a classroom and that's appropriate for socialization, it just depends on what you decided was the IEP goal. And then the FDL, the frequency, the duration, and the location should be indicated in the IEP document. Oh wait, somebody said SLP services 30 minutes a week in the therapy area. I would just assume that's wherever the SLP works.
Okay. Was that Beauty and Braille?
It was somebody. Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts on in-home training only for goals? I have so many kids who could use it behaviorally.
I don't think I understood your full question. So maybe when you're reading, if you can look a little bit more towards the microphone, because when you look down, it's hard for me to hear you, Cindy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like,
sounds good. I thought you were talking to Allison, who asked the question. Okay. Thoughts on home training only for goals? I have so many kids who could use it behaviorally.
So in-home parent training is an evaluation to see if there's a skill that's occurring at home that's not occurring at school, or there's a skill that we've acquired at school but it's not generalized to home. So they have to be tied to goal. Anytime you have a related or instructional service under IDA, it has to be tied to a goal. And if part of that goal is behavior, if there's some acquisition of behavior at home that doesn't exist at school or vice versa, then you could certainly request that.
Okay. What do parents do to prepare Texas schools closing like Indiana?
You mean for snow? Make sure you have snacks. Lots of snacks. And somebody says, where do we find you if TikTok goes dark? TikTok's going but you can always find us on the Tube Day U at Special Education Academy. And then I'm Special Education Boss on the gram, on the book, on the things. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. All it means is on the 19th is you couldn't download the app. But we're already on the app, so don't delete it.
All right. What's better in your opinion, a 504 or an IEP?
Well, whatever's better is what's appropriate for the student. Are there a handful of students that might need a 504 solely? Sure. But they're very few and far between. An IEP gives you services, supports, goals, and we're working on mitigating the acuity of your disability.
Hey, can I file a complaint if an IEP evaluation took over 24 months to complete?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that good
12
English?
months.
Was that good English? Yeah. Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
take it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
There we go. Right. There we go.
And there was somebody, you guys, in the chat that is in Dickinson ISD and wanted my help. So if you shoot an email to advocate at Special Education Academy and then just specify that you're wanting me to help you, we'll get you started with that.
I'm about to graduate. I'm excited, and I'm trying to decide between colleges. How do I know if they'll meet my needs?
I don't know. Certainly find a college that is on the path of instruction that you're looking for. I find colleges much better at serving individuals with disabilities.
Wow, here for this one. Just took the Department of Education to court for non-compliance, and I won.
You took the Department of Education to court and you won? Like you sued the whole department? I would love to see that. That's awesome.
Then that one over to witness. Moving to a different district next school year with an IEP. Child is 2 years behind, and we want, what do we want? To retain our child in the 5th grade. What is your thought?
No, that's my thought. If a child has an IEP, then we make those adjustments. When they're in 5th grade, they're 10 or 11. That's their class, right? That's their peers. And so I would hate to remove a child from their peers that they've had for half of their educational time, right? 6 years, kindergarten through 5th, maybe more if they've been in special ed. So I would never recommend retention for a client outside of kindergarten or 1st grade. But that's just my opinion.
Our school does not have a special education teachers for 2 hours, only an aide. What can I do?
File a robust state complaint or get somebody to file it for you that knows what they're doing, like myself or one of our partners.
If A ST has had an active dyslexia program since the first grade. And is now in middle school.
So I'm getting like, Cindy,
Yes.
every other word.
Okay.
So I heard ST and then, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Sister, would you like to read some questions, or Stephanie? And I will restart. Stephanie, thank you.
Elena was like, no. Wow.
Oh, I can't restart. It's my Zoom. I'll figure it out.
I'm assuming that student. If a student has had an active dyslexia program since first grade, is now in middle school, can they qualify to exit?
So you don't ever
showed progress.
Yeah, you don't ever exit dyslexia. You just go to maintenance, but that's more
Exit.
So you don't ever
showed progress.
Yeah, you don't ever exit dyslexia. You just go to maintenance, but that's more
Exit.
So you don't ever
showed progress.
Yeah, you don't ever exit dyslexia. You just go to maintenance, but that's more
Exit.
So you don't ever
showed progress.
Yeah, you don't ever exit dyslexia. You just go to maintenance, but that's more than enough time. But that's more than enough time. Move to school. I don't of Office of Civil Rights.
Is it possible to get special education services at home?
Yeah, if you have homebound.
What do I do if the school district disagrees with the neuropsychological report?
I would make them. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that we've submitted.
I would make them. Well, I don't know what the point of it was. I mean, it could be for a lot of things. So, it depends if you're using that to start testing. It just depends.
If a child with an IEP is transferred from one school to another within the same district, do they follow the same IEP?
If they move from Alaska to Miami, we follow the same IEP. So the IEP is implemented based upon the conformity of the last agreed upon document.
Should special education for pre-K be full day or part day?
It depends on there's no requirement for full day. And then of course it's what's appropriate for a child. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that want their 3-year-old to go to school for 8 hours a day, but it's what's appropriate for the child. And if it's not offered full day, then there's your problem resolved. But schools don't have an obligation to deliver a full day of pre-K. Some do.
Okay. A child in kindergarten has numbers that are slightly below their peers, OT and speech 3 times a week. They have a meeting within the next couple of days. How do they get help?
How do you get help? Help.
I think that would be reaching out to Advocate at Special Education
Academy.com. So, if you're wanting if you're wanting representation, just email us. We have a team of advocates at Advocate at Special Education Academy.com. That's what Elena would say. .com. Well, that was more Miss Doubtfire. I don't know if that was, but you know.
What if you are missing prep, getting abused by a child, and are missing teaching classes to support them?
I would tell my boss I'm unsafe at the job that I've been hired for. Nobody should be unsafe at school. Nobody.
Do you have advocates in Minnesota?
All of our advocates serve families from sea to shining sea. Minnesota, we do. All of our IEPs are done via Zoom. So I have been sitting here since Friday, March 13th, 2020, when the pandemic started. And I've remained serving clients, whether it's in a federal investigation, hearing, mediation, IEPs.
If a speech therapist is not providing services stated in the IEP, is it legally on the case manager?
It's on the district to provide that related or instructional service.
Do we have to use the school speech therapist, or can we use a private speech therapist for services under the IEP?
So the district's charged with providing those services. If they don't have enough personnel, they might have to employ somebody private.
I had my son's IEP meeting. The budget cut took away his extra help reteaching. How do I get it back?
There's no such thing as budget cut affecting an IEP. So we call that a line. I'm sorry, lying. Yeah, lying. Lying. Yeah.
Why don't you like one-on-one in a general education setting, and what do you suggest?
So I didn't say I didn't like it. What I said was it's the most restrictive setting, and then I can't tease out what the student's doing and what the aide is doing. So it would be very rare that I would find, if somebody needs a pair of full-time, then general ed's not the appropriate setting. So you would need to go to a more supported setting that's special education supported. And then when they have gains in there, then we talk about inclusion time. But to have an adult on the hip of a child in general ed is absolutely not appropriate all day long. It's just not.
How do we qualify for homebound?
It's initiated by a letter from a medical professional that the student, based on their emotional, physical needs at this time, needs to receive their educational instruction in home.
School and EEI are polar opposite results, so it should be IEE. And the school uses their report. Is this right?
It happens. Yeah, and therein is the, I'm not a big proponent of let's go get a bunch of IEEs. Obviously, the school is going to agree with their report. They did their report, right? So it's a very fine line when you request an IEE that's done with, fidelity based upon the needs of the student. But the district has no obligation under IDEA or any state statute to incorporate a single word, paragraph, comma, or recommendation in an IEE.
Okay, you haven't addressed this one on tonight's TikTok, but you have here recently thoughts on President-elect wanting to dismantle the DOE and potential impacts that it may have.
Yeah, so I don't have any thoughts on that. We're going to have education. We're going to have special education. We're going to have our civil rights. If they are serviced and overseen by a different entity, Department of Justice, something else, then that's what that will happen. So I'm not the president. I'm not the president-elect yet. So whatever happens, will happen, and we'll pivot. But of course, kids will still get education. Education will be funded. Special education will be funded. You have to realize that the Department of Education was actually formed after the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and after Educating All Handicapped Children Act, December 2nd, 1975. It didn't even come into play till 1978. So I'm not concerned about it.
What do you do if the charter school refuses to give you information to file a formal grievance?
I have never personally, or anybody that I've ever trained, had a child long-term that was successful with a disability in a charter school. It just is what it is. People don't like that. A charter school is a school of choice. And so it's hard enough to get resources and great professionals in public school to serve kids with differences. I have not ever seen a child be successful in a charter school that was impacted by their disability.
The school's trying to give my son transition services. He's in 11th grade and we don't want them. How can we decline these services?
Well, it's an obligation. It's not something you can decline unless you want to decline special education. So in the the reauthorization of IDEA in 2004, we added transition, which requires a set of coordinated activities to make a student successful post-secondary for gainful employment, independent living, and further education. It is a federal requirement. You could stop all special education services, but I would argue that transition is the most important service that a student with a disability is delivered.
I am in Kentucky, and my child has been declined extra help after the meeting today. How can I get him the help that he needs? He's falling behind.
I would say, well, first of all, if you disagreed in a meeting, you should have a reconvene. And then I would say, what is the data that supports that? And if you don't believe that that is accurate and it's violated you and your child's procedural rights and safeguards, I would file a state complaint. We have trainings on Special Education Academy for how to file a correct state complaint, and then also how to file a correct Office of Civil Rights complaint. They're two totally different things, and if you don't do them right, most of them are dismissed.
Is it appropriate for an advocate, special education advocate, to be talking to a parent every day giving mental health advice?
I don't know. I don't know who that advocate is, and I don't know the situation.
Should resource teachers work to close gaps, IEP goals, or just teach county curriculum, or both?
So nobody is there to close a gap. We're there to teach a skill based on an identified deficit. And so if you're in resource, you're not teaching the totality of the general ed curriculum. You're scaffolding it down to the students' circumstances so they can make gains.
Okay, you said this, touched on this a little bit earlier, but different question as far as what they're really wanting. So this particular parent has a fifth grader in a charter school, different parent than the prior question. They're getting further behind. The question is, should I homeschool?
I don't know if you should homeschool, but I would be hard pressed to recommend you stay in a charter school. So there, in my opinion, I know that public education is the best setting for kids with disabilities when we get it right. And almost always we get it right.
Should SLPs on a waiver count for providing services to a student on an IEP?
I would have to see the language in this. So I don't know what a waiver is. There's certainly SLP assistants, SLP interns. So you kind of get in the weeds there. I would have to see what it actually, the language is, and if it aligns with ASHA. ASHA, that's when you're from the East Coast, ASHA.
Parents want ESY so their child has something to do over the summer. What would your response be?
Have them clean their rooms and dust your baseboards. That will give them something to do over the summer. So ESY is for students who have documented regression on IEP goals with a profound amount of time to recoup that skill and or concern for loss of critical skills. So ESY is not a daycare, and it's not for them to do something.
My child is a student with a 504 and has been bullied and physically.
So your sound is coming.
Am I coming in and out now?
Yes, I think.
Tag Cindy, I think it's time to try you again.
That's funny.
Well, you're on mute, so that's.
And
not
Cindy is just talking to herself. She's going like this. So what she said was,
Yeah.
it's just a manic, just another manic Monday.
Whoa.
You guys sing the rest. You can't just leave it at that.
I wish it was Sunday.
That's my fun. Actually, it wasn't my fun day, or for you either. All right, enough of this silliness.
Yes. My child started an evaluation in one elementary school. We are moving. Can it continue in another elementary school if we're in the same district?
You can continue if it needs to be completed anywhere.
Okay. Can you please repeat what you said about dyslexia? It went in and out.
Did I say something about dyslexia tonight? Dyslexia is one of the 9 SLDs. There's dyslexia, reading fluency, basic reading, reading comprehension, written expression, math computations, math calculation, oral expression, listening comprehension.
That was fantastic. Can a kid trial or observe the private outplacement schools?
Can a kid? No,
Yes.
this is not a hotel. No, the parents can certainly go and meet with the leadership there, but we don't. An out-of-district placement is a decision of the committee.
Any advice on requesting transportation?
Yes, I would like to have transportation as a related service under IDEA. Now, your student has to meet eligibility. That means they would have to have a physical or emotional need to access that. So not every child with a disability or an IEP meets criteria for transportation under IDEA.
This mama is looking for advice on what she should tell the teacher because the site coach asked her what data she was looking for since the IEP was just updated. What should I do and how do I ask for data?
Data for what? Are you asking for data on their goals? Are you asking for data because they're not making progress? I'm not really sure exactly what data you're asking.
And we will look for your clarification, Jennifer. Okay. Is it appropriate for an advocate? Oh, that was a duplicate question. I have 2 students on IEPs for social emotional support. Can they use science for this time?
I like when you guys make up questions. No, but science gave me a need for emotional support. So, no, science is one of the content areas in every state, even Louisiana. So you couldn't do it during core classes. You have to pull them for another time.
How do I refuse a service my son gets it outside of school?
We decline this related or instructional service.
If a student is transferred to a different school by the district, does special education have to give ARD in Texas?
Have to give what?
ARD, A-R-D.
Yeah, if there's a change of location, obviously you have to have an ARD, an admission review and dismissal meeting. In the rest of the world, we call it an IEP meeting. Yeah.
Yes. A grade level has planned a field trip that is accessible for one of their students who requires a wheelchair. Where is the rest of it? There isn't the rest of it, but we will look for it. But I think they're trying to talk about their student not being able to go on a field trip because they do not have accessibility for a wheelchair.
Well, then the school shouldn't have picked that as a field trip location. And then, Stephanie, will you text my current spouse and tell him to take it down a notch? We can hear him in here.
Okay.
And don't tell, just say I can hear you in Maynard. And did we all say happy birthday to my husband? Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, he's old now. He's in his late 50s now.
Is late, but you know what? He's not looking at it. Okay. My daughter just got diagnosed with ADHD this month. He's on an IEP for ASD. Do we need to update the IEP with this new information about ADHD?
Well, you need to update it with the new information that they meet medical criteria, and see if there's a need for testing to see if we need to have testing for it as it relates to special education.
You suggest for a student with head banging, with any workload and throwing and eloping?
A highly supported, very structured behavioral class.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy and her noises. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
We heard you, ma'am.
Yes. What determining factors should be considered when determining placement for a student?
All of the data that talks about what that student's needs are and how his disability impacts him across settings, from the time from bell to bell or from bus to bus. That's how you make decisions for placement.
And the second part of that I just found was with autism in an AU class versus a mild intellectual disabilities class.
It would depend on the acuity of his disability. Is he more driven by his autism or is he more impacted by an intellectual disability?
Yes. Okay. When being homebound, does a child get all services at home?
No.
We have an IEP.
No, you get the content classes. So in elementary school, that would be 5. After 8th grade, that's 4: reading, math, science, and social studies, and any related services with a decreased rate of delivery that would be appropriate for the student.
Oh, yes, there was clarification, and thank you for the answer. Sorry, general education field trip planned for a location that isn't accessible, not ADA compliant. What do I do?
I don't know, general ed locations all locations in America that are open to the public have to be accessible. It's the law, just since 1990.
That wasn't too long ago in my book.
That was like 10 years ago to me.
Yes, exactly. Are kids getting overdiagnosed with ASD by outside age organizations, in your opinion?
I think that we have a lot of children that are little and don't talk at the expected rate and don't stare at you in the eye. And we're like, that's autism. And I think there's over assumptions.
That's a good word. How can I get a school to implement services?
Somebody said there's lipstick on my teeth. Why didn't you guys tell me that?
I did not see it.
Or maybe they were just trying to all
Now,
dactyl. Were you just trying to scare me? Is there lipstick on my teeth? I don't think so.
but if there was, they deserve the
Thank you
number
for
one
letting me
gift
know.
match.
Thank you for letting me know.
In South Dakota, can a para teach lessons instead of a special education teacher?
No. 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 The initial instruction comes from the teacher of record.
Is it legal for you to tell your students' parents to ask for special education help?
Sure. Why wouldn't it be legal? You know why? Because we don't let your teachers refer for special education. It's still some dirty word.
Thought on special education referrals in kindergarten. Our district tells us not to bother because they will not be accepted.
Well, that would be a violation of the Individual with Disabilities Education Act child fine. We assess children at 2.5. So I would poke them in the eye with a, some sort of like tongue depressor made out of wood. So it's an injury, but it's not, you don't need stitches. Yeah, that's like saying your child's sick in kindergarten, but we don't help kids get well till 1st grade. Wah, wah.
I have 2 people at my IEP meeting. Who should be present at the IEP meeting legally? Help.
So the stakeholders are number 1, parent. Number 2, the LEA representative, the local education agency, usually a principal, a vice principal, associate principal, or if you have a really good advocate, 500 principals. A general education teacher, a special education teacher, and somebody that can do assessments and answer a question and interpret results of assessments.
Is it normal to have 17 people at your IEP meeting when you have an advocate?
When you have me, it is, because I'm a gangsta.
Yes.
We like to take up all the cubes on the Zoom. We like to go to the big grid on Teams.
Oh, second quarter in school, and my school hasn't provided any sensory tools for my ADHD sensory child. What do you suggest I do?
Well, if it's part of the IEP, you need to deliver it. If it's not part of the IEP, you need to have a meeting to add it.
My school wants speech to be taken away from my child, but I feel he needs more help. What else can I do, or what should I request?
It sounds like you're about to provide me some data that supports the removal of those special education services, and I can't wait to look at it with you together so we make a decision that's right for the student.
Oh, my heart's going out. What should you do if a parent refuses to have their child evaluated for speech and other issues? They need it so very badly.
There's nothing you can do. Thank you for doing the right thing. But ultimately, special education is consensual, and the only person that can provide the consent is the parent.
I have a sneaky school, and I feel they are lacking in fidelity. For example, provide sensory equipment. I never saw any. I want to know where it is. Is it in the closet, in the tips? How do I find out what is being provided consistently?
Yeah, so I would just say, when the kids aren't in the class, I would love to see the sensory diet that you're using for my cherub to be successful.
I know that Stephanie asked something about Kentucky, but this one says, how do I go about getting an advocate in Kentucky? Did we do that one yet?
You get an advocate in Kentucky the same way you get one in the Kodiak Islands or Miami. You just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com.
Can a school deny a 504 plan requested based on their BASC 3, which doesn't match private counselors?
A school can deny anything. That doesn't make it legal, but they can deny anything. That's why you have to enforce your rights under Office of Civil Rights for 504 or IDEA for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Luke's mama is very concerned. She's starting to see signs of dyslexia in her son. What age do you think dyslexia can be evaluated?
5. Either Cindy's praying or she's really focused. I don't. Let's all bow our heads like Cindy is. Okay, while Cindy continues praying, Stephanie's done praying, so she can start now. Elena, continue to pray for both of them, okay?
Is PDA being recognized in the U.S.? How can I get accommodations in an IEP?
So disabilities are recognized. We're looking at an educational need. So we look at the characteristics of any disability and what we need to support that student.
My son has an IEP for developmental delay, but just got diagnosed with ADHD. He's 5, so I need to have the IEP updated. How do I do that?
So we need to have the IEP updated. We've found what we believe is the primary reason for his disability. And I'm not a fan of developmentally delayed because it's so general and there's no specially designed instruction for developmentally delayed.
Would it be a good idea to give a VR counselor an IEP to help us best transition to college?
Absolutely. Except for in Seminole County. They spend all their time telling you what we don't do. Isn't that right, Elena? So let me just jump in here real quick. We have a press conference in Seminole County at Lake Brantley High School on Valentine's Day at 4 p.m. So February 14th at 4 p.m. we will be doing a press conference with the press and all sorts of people for the special education and civil rights violations that occur at Lake Brantley High School in Seminole County, Florida.
We'll be there. Is it legal for a counselor to approve a 504 only her signature prior to the due date, which is over the summer?
I mean, I'm here for them to help us with anything. I mean, getting help ahead of time, I'm not mad about that.
Are step parents allowed to come to IEP meetings, and are they allowed to speak over parents?
So anybody is allowed to be brought to an IEP meeting by any of the parents.
It's like I've stepped over Cindy in asking questions. Let's see. Can a paraprofessional do medical procedures like thermal regulation and G-tube or incontinence?
So incontinence is not a medical procedure. Changing a child that's soiled is personal care services. Any staff member that's properly changed can deliver food through a G-tube, not medicine, but they could do liquids. I don't know what thermal regulation is, but maybe. And then also the 15th and 16th, we will be having our 2-day live in-person intensive training in Orlando, Florida. So those two things will be back to back.
I'm having difficulty with my son's aide. It appears that he is bullying the student and singling him out.
I would reach out to the principal and ask how they're going to resolve that immediately.
Can a para, not a specialist, help with social skills instruction?
They can help with working on repeating that initial instruction. They can't deliver it initially, but certainly if they've been supervised under the watchful eye of a certified special educator, they could work on GMF, generalization, maintenance, and fluency.
Okay. My son had a one-on-one para last year and was told this year at the middle school, we don't do that.
Yeah, we're allergic. We are allergic to we don't do that. So We don't do that. It's not in the law, and it's very predetermined.
Just starting to learn that our school district didn't keep any records. How do we move forward?
So any records of, I mean, you could have a school that did a great job at the IEP and they didn't keep records. So, I mean, for me, what is the end goal, right? Are you wanting records to prove that he did make success, that he didn't make success? It just depends on what you're looking for. But a school is obligated to keep records for sure.
Should a school district have written guidelines or criteria to determine placement for students?
We have written criteria. It's called the least restrictive environment. And the least restrictive environment never says a single word about general ed. So let's stop saying that. So we're charged with looking at the child's needs and educating them to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with strategies and supports when that's successful.
We were out for a week because of snow. What do we do when we've exceeded the time limit for having the IEP meeting?
I mean, you just have to reschedule it. Snow is, I mean, you know, weather is not something we can control. I'm going to answer this question real quick. Do parents legally have to tell the teacher prior to the meeting if they're bringing an advocate? So I'm very transparent. So I want my parents to tell the district that they're bringing an advocate, because the district could cancel the meeting if you don't disclose that. So we're asking the school to be transparent. So I operate from that same position.
Can any general education teacher be the teacher if the special education teacher is out for the day?
Well, they're not a special educator, so they can certainly go in there and keep the children safe and deliver them general education. But if they're not special educators and they don't know the students' IEPs, which I wouldn't imagine that you would if you were just moved there in one day, they're not going to be able to deliver those minutes.
Can an IEP team make an emergency placement for a student who has never been in school prior to enrollment?
So there's no such thing as an emergency anything in IDEA. That's just something we say. We have an emergency meeting, an emergency placement. Doctors have an emergency room. Special ed does not. So we make placement decisions on the totality of the committee being delivered all the information so they can be informed as they decide next steps.
My child previously had 40 hours of ABA and has now been put in public school full time and is struggling. What advice do you have?
I mean, it's a personal decision where to educate your child, right? If ABA is an option for your family, if public school, private school, church school, homeschool, it's all, only the parent knows what's best for their child.
Can the school site deny testing to a child after a parent asks?
And the school can do that. I wouldn't recommend that they do that. The law says that the school is actually required to go out and look for and identify and locate and evaluate children with suspected disabilities that may be in need of special education related services. Not confirmed, just suspected. So I find it shocking when schools, go to the mat on no.
Medical documents have not been received by the school. Can an IEP team still qualify the student under OHI?
So you need that supporting documentation from a medical doctor. If we're just waiting because Cindy's going to go in one day, or, the doctor's office had a power outage and they didn't send it over. If we don't know, that's one thing. If it's just a bit behind on clerical, it's really at the end of the day, the IEP committee can decide what's best for a student.
Do you have any tips or resources for EBD/behavioral para?
Just really, you have an opportunity to look at the student's evaluation, and not only just the psychological part, but the cognitive part as well. I just have to read this. Somebody said, it's not funny, but it's funny. Can somebody be a special education teacher if they're not a special education teacher? Hold on. Can a person with zero experience with children teach SPED but only have a degree in dance? I'm going to go with negative. Yeah. Although I do like dance.
That up.
I'm not making it up. It's from user 1652113520795. Definitely from that user.
Okay. Here. Cindy, it sounds like you're back on. Do you want to hop in?
Yes,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
we're gonna do up until 10 minutes till.
Understood. 7 minutes remaining. Where should a specialized diet be added in an IEP to ensure everyone is following the doctor's orders?
And the IHP, the Individualized Health Plan.
What can you do if they cannot provide the data for the changes to an IEP?
Then get a Klondike bar. Sorry, it's just when you said, what can we do? Sorry, ask me the question again.
What can you do if they cannot provide the data for the changes to an IEP?
Then we wait for the data. We don't make any decisions without data. That would be illegal, inappropriate, not best practice, and fraudulent. And I like to say that word at meetings. Fraudulent. That's when you've had too much coffee.
Oh, is there such thing now? What do I do if my kid has a 504 but qualifies for an IEP? They're refusing an IEP, and he has DNDD and ADHD.
Well, if he qualifies, he can't qualify and then refuse. Those are two different things. So those are opposing things. So if they're refusing, I would file a state complaint for a denial of child fine.
Oh, yay! Florida Gator Mama says she's going to make plans to be there on the 14th.
We're going to put the LOV in Seminole County.
Yes, and they'll get to see you in person there.
Yes, you'll get to see me live and in person. And I'm taller in person than you think. I just want to clear that.
Oh, yes, ma'am, you are.
Not like circus tall or basketball player, but I'm taller than when I'm sitting down.
Unless there's a 9-foot man in front of you.
Mr. the Keebler Elf. Yeah, he was scary, wasn't he? Haven't heard from him. Hey, Justin. It's Karen. More complaints coming tonight.
I'm a very exhausted school SLP here. So many students, evals, and meetings and paperwork. But you make it worthwhile.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for serving kiddos. Speech is so important.
Yes, and they have the best data. If a kid is in pull-ups in the 1st grade, does the child have to be in the unit?
The unit. So a child could be 22 in pull-ups. So whether or not that you're able to take care of all of your hygiene needs doesn't negate whether or not you're in a certain setting in school.
Let's see. So, a gen education teacher refuses to change her SPED students in her class. She is requesting more SPED staff but cannot get it. What do they do?
I mean, if you're unable to serve that ratio, I would say to the principal, I'm concerned about putting my licensure at risk because what I'm doing is unethical.
Help, help, help. My son
I
will
need
not
somebody. Oh, sorry.
I love it. My son will not do his homework, and his IS said she does not know how or who to help him.
Well, homework's not part of any state education code. So I would write a note. He didn't do his homework. Thank you. Thank you. Elena, when you put that in there, will you put 4 p.m.? Because, they want as much information as possible.
And maybe Eastern Standard Time.
Well, I mean,
If a child-
wherever you are, we would know what time. I think we could all agree Florida. Oh, that's not true. Florida has 2 time zones. So I'm lying.
Yeah, it does.
Why does it have 2 time zones?
Just to confuse the people who are crossing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if a child is immobile, nonverbal, intellectually disabled, should they have a one-to-one para?
I don't know. It would just depend. Somebody said, do I do speaking engagements? Do I do speaking engagements? I do.
The best ones.
Yeah, I'm doing a professional development tomorrow in New Hampshire.
They are so lucky.
I hope they think.
Where Where should a specialized, oh, no, we already did that one. Do parents legally have to tell the teacher? Oh, we already did that one. We have duplicate questions. How long should the sped ed department keep records of their students?
For 5 years after the date of dismissal, graduation, or last action.
Okay. That's good to know, because I thought it was 3 years as a teacher. Oh. What should I be concerned about before preparing for an evaluation?
Are you the evaluator? Are you the parent?
I don't know. It's Ariana. Maybe we'll get some clarification.
Yeah, if it's your child that's being evaluated, make sure that you go online on Special Education Academy on YouTube and watch the 8 areas of evaluation. You want to make sure that you ask for all 8 areas.
And our last question. When an observation is done for an IEP, should this have any opinions from the observer?
It should have their observations, which is an opinion. And then I'm going to answer this question. What did you do before becoming an advocate? I was a swimwear model. It's 1971. It was when I was first grade. So before I was an advocate, I had a very large salon. Because I liked talking all day to the peoples. I was not planning on doing this. I wanted people to adore me. But it's a great honor to serve families and serve individuals with differences to bring about hope and possibility for their future. So we love you. We definitely want to see you in Seminole County at the press conference, the 14th at 4 p.m. We definitely want you to figure out how to get to the 2-day training in person. It's the first one I've done in 2 years. It's going to be, as Cindy would say, spectacular. And so you can get that information on our website. We have financing available. Remember, when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. And remember, we still have a code if you are an employee of a school district. If you work at a school district, if you're at a school district, if you're a school board member, if you're a school attorney, which I know you're watching now, you're welcome to come for a month for the academy. Just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. Remember, when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training. And Timu popped up when I was trying to stop it. Help!
That's funny.
I need somebody.
I think it's so funny.
Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.